Bring it on. Want some, get some.
Yes, I am a pirate.
You have to go with the pirates because, of course, they have cannons and everything.
It's a pirate's life for me.
Be proud of who you are and what you are. You're pirates.
It is a first down. Pirates.
Because when you're at East Carolina, you go for it every time. Or you don't coach at East Carolina, you don't come to East Carolina, you don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart. Write it.
I don't think I've ever been in a building as loud as that was. It was deafening in there.
We will get to Omaha. I can promise you that.
And it's purple all night long in Eastern North Carolina.
You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
Yeah. My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down to my soul. And I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode.
What's going on, Pirate Nation? Welcome into the Pirate Football Playback. East Carolina goes to Denton, Texas. The Pirates dig a 21-0 first half hole, get a crucial score right before the half, and then proceed to outscore the Mean Green 31-0 over about a 12 to 13 minute stretch there, spanning the latter part of the second quarter and the first 12 minutes of the third, and then put it away, winning 40-28, overcoming nearly 130 yards in penalties and a couple of first half turnovers that cost them scoring opportunities to notch their seventh victory of the season. But right now, I'd like to welcome in Kyle from the Grange Barber. Kyle, how are you?
What's up, Bubba? The Mean Green. I just got a text from Dave, actually. He just informed me that after yesterday's loss, the Mean Green are officially changing their name to the Silly Green.
And from the state of Connecticut, Matt Semenza. Matt, I know you were in Florida for part of the weekend. How are things?
Everything's good, guys. I was looking back. I had a chance to go back and really watch that game in detail today. And we talk a lot about the middle eight. I like to call it the middle 10. Same principle. But, if you look at that game yesterday, we're down 21-0. And we obviously get the touchdown right before halftime, which was huge. That was a huge series of events there to be able to get on the board right before half. Obviously, North Texas receives in the second half. We come out and get a turnover right away, another quick score. Then we get a stop. We get a field goal. You're right back in the game quickly within the span of about 8 minutes of actual game time on the field. So the middle 10 was critical in that game to kind of get back in and take momentum back.
Yeah, there were a lot of similarities between this game and last Thursday's game. The 38-31 victory out at Tulsa, obviously a better opponent. And as a result, those miscues, you appeared to be getting off to the start that you would want. In 3 or 4 plays, you're right down there inside the 10-yard line. Unfortunately, you had the fumble that cost you 7 points there. And then you have a pick that gives North Texas a short field. 3 and out. They gave him a short field, and then you had the chance to make it a 14-7 game, and you had a lineman downfield on a RPO. You get about 2.5, 3 yards, and it appeared that he was about 4 to 5 yards downfield, and then you knew facing that 21-0 deficit there with 2.5, 3 minutes to go in the first half, and North Texas getting the second half kickoff, you really need a drive, and the Pirates were able to put one together. And then coming out of the half, force that turnover, and then one of the best runs you'll ever see with the assist from Jamarian McCrimmon, pulling Rajay Harris out of that pile and going 35 to 40 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, unbelievable. Go back to the first half a little bit. You mentioned the fumble. You're setting yourself up to score there. I kind of wonder how the whole flow of that game would have been had we scored there. We may have dominated. But you fumble there. Then you have Hauser throwing a pick. Just not a good start. And you're down 21-0. But really, when you look at it, you give them two extra. The point I'm going with all this is the defense really didn't play that bad in the first half. It seems like we did because we got down 21-0. But you give them two extra possessions right off the bat. Now, granted, one of them was a long field, and we did get a 3 and out. But still, you hold them to 21 points when you gave them two extra possessions, which isn't bad. And like you said, we score right before halftime, forced the turnover coming out at the beginning of the second half, which was huge, and then responded to that with that run from Raji. And then it was complete domination after that. You had the one touchdown on the drive where we got the two face mask penalties. Besides that, it was total domination in the second half. And guys, we did this without arguably, two of our best receivers, maybe our two best receivers, Chase Sowell and Winston Wright Jr. And that's something that I don't think has been talked about enough. We did that without two of our best receivers, and you hope to God we have them back for Navy, because I really don't know that we can do it against Navy without those two. But that's something that needs to be pointed out. All the adversity we faced in this ball game, and to make that comeback without two of our best players.
Yeah, you make a lot of great points there, and we had heard Winston Wright was going to be available, and that Chase Sowell's a little more iffy with that hamstring, and Blake Harrell addressed it in his post game, saying both were game time decisions. I'd seen him dressed on the sideline, but just after going through warm ups, and they decided that it was best to keep them out of the game yesterday, and so at least that gives you hope that hopefully they'll be available on Friday against Navy.
Yeah, absolutely. Another game, guys, of running the football really effectively. And, yesterday was kind of fun to watch in the second half, as bad as the first half was, and it was brutal at times. The ability to just line up and run the football, to me, is one of the biggest differences in this team. You look at the last 4 weeks, and our ability to essentially just get to the line and pound the football is something we haven't seen around here in a long time. And, I like that John David Baker, he stuck to the running game, right? Like, I think what happened was we had a certain game plan offensively. North Texas fired their defensive coordinator last week, and they came out with some different looks that I don't think we were anticipating. And I think that gave us a lot of problems early in this game. And he basically just said at that point, hey, look, we're going to line up, we're going to run the football. And he did it very effectively. And look, you got to give one of the guys I'd never give credit to on this show, and our offensive line coach, Matt Maddox. I hope I'm saying his name. Bubba, I have his name right? Matt Maddox.
That's it. You got it.
Correct.
Hell of a job he's done this year, guys. Like, we got to give him some credit, because this offensive line was at rock bottom last year, and it wasn't looking so great earlier in the season at times. And the job he's done right now is remarkable. So got to give him some credit. I really like the development I'm seeing from the offensive line, and it's just fun watching a team run the football like this.
Yeah, we heard a lot of good things about him. And I'm going to tell you this, and I don't know this for a fact. Bubba, maybe you'll have more intel. Matt, you might even. I heard that there was a new coach on staff that was not meshing well with Mike Houston back in the fall or summer camp back in August. And I had the suspicion that it was Coach Maddox, and I could be wrong on that. This is just total guess on my part. That was my suspicion then. It's still my suspicion now. And again, if I'm wrong on that, Houston brought up the comment about you guys, Bubba, you probably remember this back in the spring. He alluded to, or the fall camp, August. He alluded to a coach on staff needing to learn the way we do things. And I in my mind, that's who it was, and there was nothing else said that alluded to that. That is, it could have been Damon Magazoo. Who the hell knows? But that's who I thought he was referring to. He could have been referring to JDB. But do you remember that, Bubba? And do you have any intel?
I do. That's a good point. I'd actually forgotten that, but now that you bring it up, I definitely remember that being said.
Yeah.
The way we do things, or the way I do things, is Mike Houston. Because I'll tell you what, guys,
exactly.
I love the way this team is playing football right now. They're playing a lot more relaxed. I think these guys, they just look more comfortable. So whatever was going on in the Mike Houston, era, the Mike Houston regime, especially earlier this season, was not working. This team was on the wrong path. They looked incredibly uptight on the field. You can't play football uptight. You can't do it. And I really believe with the change of leadership that this new staff, they have these guys loose. They're having fun. They're a little more energetic. And they're not really afraid of making mistakes. And you can see it, man. You can see it. I mean, there is a world of difference right now between the way this team is being coached the last 4 weeks versus how it was being coached before. And again, you saw it again this week, the approach, how we go into halftime. It seems like every week now we're making plays right before halftime. We're aggressive versus what we did for the previous 5 years where we were always quick to be conservative and take it to half with a lot of times 2 timeouts.
I remember Jeff Connors. I don't know if he did it when you were here, Matt, but he did it when he was here under Ruffin. He had a little chant he used to do with the players. It was something like, get loose, get loose. They don't want to see us loose. I don't know if he did that when you were here, but
yeah, I remember him doing a series of those on Pirate Radio.
Yes, he want to see us loose. So that was when Ruff was here, and I think we're seeing the guys play loose. And a lot of people say we're playing too loose because of all the penalties. Let me tell you something. A lot of those face mask penalties, yeah, you don't want them, but they're effort penalties. When a guy's going for it, yeah, you got to have enough sense to grab. If you feel yourself grabbing that face mask, take your hand away. It maybe won't get called for it. Then the one on the sack was more egregious than the other one. But still, they're effort penalties. I don't mind effort penalties. Yeah, you don't want them, but if a guy's holding or you get a face mask and it's an effort. What I don't like is late hits. And it was a late hit call in the game yesterday, and it's really
Perry's trying to hold him up.
Exactly, it wasn't a great call. So those are kind of penalties I don't like. Undisciplined penalties. But I'm never really going to get mad at a guy. I remember when Ruffin was here, a lot of people would bitch about us getting penalized a lot, and it was effort. A lot of times when you're playing hard and you're giving great effort, and you're not so daggone worried about, like Matt said, playing tight, worried about making a mistake and making a penalty because you're going to get blessed out or have to run gassers or whatever the coach is going to do, you may be more likely to make a penalty, but you're probably more likely to make a big play too because you're giving great effort.
Yeah, a little about the offensive numbers in this game. One of you a moment ago referenced the running game. Going into the North Texas game, the Pirates had run for over 200 yards in 3 consecutive games for the first time since 1989, which was a number I knew it was at least pre-2004 because I had gone back and done a little research. But the statistics, team stats that we have online stopped in 2004. So I wasn't sure until ECU Pirates Football on X, put that number and that graphic out there. So pretty mind-boggling when you think of the running backs that we've had: Keaton Mitchell, Chris Johnson, Junior Smith, Scott Harley, Jarris McPhail, Leonard Henry. I mean, Marvin Towns. Just unbelievable running backs down through the years, and we had not put 3 consecutive 200 yards together or 300 consecutive 200-yard games. Excuse me. But now we've done it 4 consecutive games, and this was the biggest game of the 4 with 255 yards yesterday. Another 100-yard game for Rajay Harris, his 3rd 100-yard game in the last 4. And we talked about that 38-yard run where Jamarian McCrimmon pulled him out of the pile. And Rajay reached pay dirt yesterday 3 times.
Yeah, and the last time he stopped himself before he scored.
I was very relieved when he scored the ensuing play, I guess it was, or maybe two plays later.
So in one of our multiple group texts we have, somebody texts, "How smart was that by Rajay?" I said, "Not very. They got 3 timeouts left." I mean, what the hell are you doing? They got 3 timeouts. It ain't like it was a minute to go. It was still on. It was like a minute 48 to go in the game. Like, good God, Raji, just score. I pictured it in my head. I was like, we're going to freaking end up with 40 seconds left to go in this game, kicking a field goal to go up by 9, and we're going to miss it or get it blocked and lose it on a freaking return block kick or a Hail Mary. So thank God. Clearly, somebody told him next time you get it in the end zone, because that's what he did.
Yeah, I think maybe he was thinking they only had 2 timeouts left. I mean,
Yes, I think probably the 2-minute warning timeout screwed him up.
Yeah. I mean, the only good thing that came out, obviously, we scored the next play, but they did burn one timeout, right? They burned at least one. But yeah, that was a funny series. How about this? Since we're talking about that play, did you guys see the 2-point conversion we attempted to run? It failed. Was
Great
a beautifully
play
designed play.
Yeah.
Beautifully designed play. I was so mad. If we could have executed that play, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
It was a waste of. I wouldn't even call it there. It's such a great play call. The little hook and ladder on the way. I think it was wasted there. I mean, any people are say, "Well, hell, you only got one more game left in the regular season anyway." So I guess there's a point to that. But man, say that and call it in a damn goal line situation like a 4th down play. But no.
And it could have worked 2 ways, Kyle. It could have worked 2 ways.
Yeah, because he could have kept it.
Smith, the receiver, actually, when he caught that ball, he actually could have just turned upfield.
Yep.
And walked in. But obviously, he was coached to, the play was to flip it back to Rajay. And I think if Rajay caught that ball, I think he would have got to the edge.
Oh, he definitely would, because Smith would have started blocking at that point.
Yeah, it was it was a great design play. Like, that kind of stuff I love. Creative play calling is really refreshing to see here. So too bad, hopefully we can try that one again in a similar circumstance and it works.
I don't believe I'd call it again in some similar circumstance. I'll probably be looking for it. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe they won't. They'll think you'll never call that again. But
a little more on the Pirates team rushing numbers. 57 carries, so ECU ran the ball 70% of the time on Saturday afternoon. On those 57 attempts, like I mentioned, 255 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. In addition to Rajay Harris's 24 carries for 128 yards. You had London Montgomery, 15 attempts for 63. Marlon Gunn, 9 for 42. And Jari Patterson, 3 for 18. In addition to 5 for 5 by Caton Hauser. And then you had a couple of 100-yard receivers. North Texas still has not covered Anthony Smith on the post route. and four catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. And Yannick Smith, had someone chiming in here, in the chat. It's actually Will Landon on YouTube. I appreciate you, Will. He said, can you talk a little about Yannick Smith's performance and what you guys think he could do for us moving forward this year and hopefully next? Yeah, Yannick Smith out of Somerville, South Carolina. He was also a heck of a basketball player during his high school days. And I believe maybe even he's definitely all-state, maybe even a Mr. Basketball in the state of South Carolina within his classification. But Yannick Smith, 6'2", 6'3", 215, 220-pound wide receiver. And, reminds me a lot of Trayvon Brown, his body type and what he brings to the table, the way he can utilize that on jump balls. And he does an excellent job of setting up the fade routes and making those over-the-shoulder catches. I know, Matt, you're extremely high on him. And when we got word that Chase Sowell may very well be unavailable against North Texas, that you thought Yannick Smith was very capable of having the day that he did have.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, a great option there that, he's technically the backup here behind Chase Sowell, but he is not a backup player. I mean, this kid is a talent. He is a serious talent, and he's big. I mean, he is a big, strong kid for his age, and he can go up and make plays. He has great hands. He can catch the ball. He showed some speed yesterday on that go route and for the touchdown. And he looks like a complete receiver. And with his size, you can do a lot of things with him blocking on the perimeter too. So he's the type of guy where, like, I know there's a lot of talk about the portal. Are we going to be able to keep him, this and that? It would be in his best interest. All right. Look, you stay at East Carolina for at least another year. I mean, look, I'm hoping we keep him for 4 years, but let me just finish this. You keep him here for another year, and you have a chance to have a monster season in this offense if we keep it together. And then, you see what happens from there. But all the talent is there. He's got all the tools. He's going to be a great one.
Where's the thing? And you're right about the portal and NIL. And there was, I don't want to say too much because, I don't want anybody to. I'll just say somebody said something from somebody in the know about Yannick and NIL money. So we probably need to pony up if we want to keep him. He is a very talented kid with 3 years of eligibility left after this year. A lot of size, can play in the SEC, and has a huge, huge upside. I tell you what, we'll stand a much better chance of keeping him if we can keep the staff together. So keep that in mind. But I do think it's going to take some NIL money to keep Yannick. And here's the thing: if we can get him enough NIL money to stay, I would advise him to not chase the dollar too much. I understand, if you're getting offered $700,000-$800,000, come play somewhere. But if you're getting offered $200,000-$300,000, and we can give you $100,000, $50,000, $80,000, something like that, your money's in the NFL, your real money, and you can make it to the league here, particularly as a receiver, just as well as you can anywhere else. Dwayne Harris, Justin Hardy, and so on. So, but it is going to take some money to keep Yannick here. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think he's worth it. When you think about how to spend that NIL money, I'm just laughing at Craig Doucette's comment. And sorry, Craig, I did want to keep it on the down low here, but yeah. I mean, you think about how you're going to spend your money, and he's a guy you would definitely want to invest in. So, but I think at the very least another year here to really showcase your skills. I think would be good for him.
Okay. I was trying to find the comment. Was it the one about Dave entering the NIL portal?
No, there was one before that. It was Craig was just basically telling me to not talk so much about Yannick Smith's accolades so we can keep him quiet from the portal.
Yeah, we got to keep that a secret. They don't have the ESPN Plus in the SEC.
Yeah, before we get to a lot more of these comments, I mean, Jonathan Davis said, "Where's Dave? He wasn't here last Sunday. Has he been fired?" No, he's actually just on the way back from DC. He was watching his Redskins, aka Commanders, take on the Dallas Cowboys today. So that's where Dave is. And as we go back to some of these football specific comments here, Brad Williams says the Blake Harrell teams are averaging 46 points against FBS competition, and that the Mike Houston teams averaged 24 points this year versus FBS competition.
Yeah, but that's because when we was playing with Mike Houston, the schedule was so much tougher when we were in the SEC up until the middle of October, apparently.
Yeah, it's not like we're playing teams that are really any worse than the teams we were playing earlier this year. I mean, it's not like Liberty is really not that great of a team. App State is really not that great of a team when you put that in comparison to how they've been in the past. Charlotte sucks. Let's just call it what it is. That was an abomination. So there is a clear difference in coaching here. It's really not even close.
No, the only team we lost to that we really should have lost to from a talent standpoint was Army. No, and I shouldn't even say from a talent standpoint, but from a cohesive unit as a football team. And I'd like to know what, I guess we'll find out more when we play Navy this Friday about how good we are. Although I'll tell you, this Navy game scares me, and we'll of course talk more about the North Texas game and the Blake Harrell job situation. But this Navy game scares me for multiple reasons. One, we've never beaten Navy in Greenville, so PTSD. Two, we had a short week. This is a short week to prepare for Navy. We just played on the road in Dallas. We got home last night at 11:30. Now we got to turn around and play Friday. To me, people talked about the North Texas game. They could see us coming out flat. This is the game where I could see us coming out flat. After that comeback at North Texas, short week to prepare, Thanksgiving is a distraction. And Navy's had an off week while we were playing North Texas on the road, coming from 21 down, to scheme for us, to prepare for us, to get healthy. Their quarterback was banged up the last couple of weeks. He went out against Tulane with back spasms. So this is why I do not like this Navy game at all, and why I say go ahead and give Blake the job now, because I think there's a lot of things going against him this week that are out of his control with the Navy game, and that's why I'm not really worried about the results too much in terms of Blake's job. Now, if we beat them, hey, great, icing on the cake. First win against Navy in Greenville, we go 8-4. I might storm the field, but I will caution people to not change your mind on Blake based on this Navy game because I think there's a lot of intangibles going against us this week.
It's funny. It's really interesting, Kyle. I actually feel really good about this game, this Navy game, much better than I have in years past. It's interesting. I felt really bad about I had a bad feeling about the North Texas game going on the road back-to-back weeks.
And see, I didn't. I called a 20-point win.
Yeah, we had the exact opposite feel for it. So, I just thinking about this Navy game, we're going to go back to North Texas and finish that up. Just a few thoughts here. Whenever you visit the Naval Academy or you visit West Point, there's signs everywhere. Like if you're at West Point, everywhere you go, beat Navy, and vice versa. I'm telling you, I would plaster signs all over the Ward Sports Medicine building this week. Beat Navy. I would have this team so amped up to play for this game because this game has to be personal. It really does. It has to be personal. The way that they have owned us in years past. And now we're a team that has all the momentum in the world. And we have so much to play for this week, in my opinion. And we're at home. And I just feel really good. Like I feel like the energy is going to be really high this week. And, I'll tell you one other thing too. I would love to play Army again with our offense the way it is right now, the way it's rolling, because I think it'll be a much different game. Bubba.
Yeah, Matt, you and I have discussed this in the past in regards to Navy. And, after I make this point, I wanted to quickly, get to a few more comments about the North
I had a great
game.
line. I had a great line, and Bubba, I would never step on you. I'm sorry, but Matt just fed me a great line, and I'm sorry. And Bubba's gonna hate me for this once I say it, but if it's there, I got to take it. Matt, you said that you would post all over the War Sport Medicine building beat Navy this week. If we don't hire if we don't hire Blake Harrell, I got something I'm going to post all over the War Sports Medicine building. It's going to say beat off. But anyway.
I knew that was coming.
Did you know that was coming?
I knew it was coming. I knew it. I know you so well. But you guys get my point, right? Like we need to emphasize heavy emphasis on this game. Like this is Navy. This is a special game. They have owned us. They have embarrassed our program so many times. They've come into Greenville and Dowdy and embarrassed us. So this has to be personal. And I would have this team sky high, ready to go.
Well, that's something you
I'm
and
fired
I
up just talking about it. Like,
in the past. Skip Holtz and a lot of coaches. I'm all for respecting the opponent and within the media and the things you say, and not giving anyone any bulletin board material, and to a degree, maybe even going a little overboard, just as far as how you obviously want the teams that you beat to be good and to be portrayed as quality opponents. I understand that, but just in recent years against Navy, it has seemed too over the top. And again, this is publicly, not behind closed doors. But Matt, you recall us having those conversations as far as like back in 2022, leading into that game, where we lost a very low scoring game. Yes, Navy very good defensively, but that game you really felt like it was one we let get away.
Oh, big time. We definitely let that one get away. That was one of the most frustrating losses I think we've had here, at least in the last 20 years that I can remember, because that game, we really should have won that game.
It was definitely a whiteout, but
Hey, we won on the road with white helmets. That's something else Blake Harrell's accomplished. Speaking of a whiteout, look, the whole Navy thing. One of the things that irritates the crap out of me. And first, let me say I have complete respect for the service academies and for the military in general. And if you've served, thank you. But the Military Appreciation Day being the same day as Navy has never made any sense to me. And some people say, well, it makes perfect sense. Well, it don't to me, because we wouldn't have NC State Appreciation Day when we're playing NC State, or Florida Atlantic Appreciation Day when we're playing Florida Atlantic. Have Military Appreciation Day on a different day. Let's just respect Navy, show them respect. Don't boo them when they run onto the field. Don't taunt them on the sideline as fans. But let's do the Military Appreciation Day and fill the stadium up with servicemen, particularly being this is a huge Marine area, which is a division of the United States Navy. Let's hand those tickets out for a different game, and quit creating an atmosphere that celebrates the Naval Academy when we're playing the Naval Academy. I mean, it's all patriotic music before the game, and it's just, and again, I love the service academies and love our country and the military in general, but it's never made any sense to me to do Military Appreciation Day when we're playing the military. I don't know if y'all agree with that or not.
I 100% agree. Like, look, East Carolina has been so gracious to the military throughout the years. So I think it's all like we all have such an appreciation for the academies, right? Like, we really do appreciate. But on Saturday, I want to kick their ass on the football field, and I hate that they've owned us so much through the years. It drives me nuts. So what an opportunity at home to kind of, take back some momentum against Navy. But, I'll tell you what, there was a great point a little higher, further up about discipline. And I do think we're going to need to play with a lot more discipline to be able to win that game.
That's another good point.
The face mask penalty, I think it was Axel that mentioned that, but some of these face mask penalties and the pre-snap movement has to get fixed. I mean, every game, this continues to happen 2 or 3 times. And I think my biggest worry right now with this Navy game is our kickoff team. Because if you look at that game yesterday against North Texas, there were 3 or 4 times in the second half where they started around their own 40-yard line. And our kickoffs are not deep enough a lot. There's not enough air under them. So guys are able to make returns. And we have not been playing well in that unit. If they start their drives on their own 40-yard line, we're going to be in for a long day. So we absolutely have to clean that up to have a chance to win.
Yeah, the penalties, again, going back to the Ruffin McNeil days, he had a lot of penalized football teams, and they were aggression penalties, and that's fine. I think, undisciplined football, again, I think lots of times on defense is because you're playing aggressively. I don't know if you agree with that, Matt, or not. You played linebacker at the Division I level, you should know. But you can't do that against Navy. And that's another thing that, a lot of the way we've been playing football, the reason we've been winning is because of effort and intensity. And you can't do that on the defensive side against Navy. Yeah, give great effort, have intensity, but you've got to have discipline. And we're not being very disciplined right now on defense. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with effort, because we're giving a really great effort. And sometimes you lose your discipline when you're giving really great effort, because you're playing see ball, get ball, go hard. And you can't do that against Navy. You got to play your position. You got to be disciplined. Go hard, but you got to play with discipline, and that's another thing. There's a lot of things in this game I think that are going against us.
Yeah, and definitely some good points there, and a lot of viewers, had made a bunch of those points that you're making, Kyle, concerning this matchup with Navy. And I know here in a moment and on our preview this week, and we'll talk more as far as Navy, yes, you have some of the same challenges, but also some new ones in defending this offense with their new OC, Drew Cronick, coming in, former head coach at Mercer, FCS program down in Georgia. But and Justin Butts chiming in, and good evening, guys. And Chuck Saye, what's up, everyone? You had Robert Matthews commenting on your interview, Sports Objective exclusive there at PGV on the Pitt Greenville Airport as the Pirates were arriving back right around midnight, give or take a few minutes. And
what was his comment?
Little 30-second interview between Kyle and Blake Harrell, and he said, handshake of the decade.
Oh my God, that is all anybody is talking about. Look, all right, let me explain this to everybody because it keeps being talked about. All right, so he didn't let go of my hand either. People think I was sitting there grabbing his hand, but it was one of those situations where I was walked up to him, shook his hand, and then it just got to the point. Yeah, it got to the point where I didn't let go and he didn't let go, and it got to the point where you didn't know what. So it just got to the point where we were just sitting there holding hands, basically, until the end of the interview. And it didn't really seem awkward at the time, but when you go back and look at it, it was awkward. And I don't know if he felt it was awkward. I really never did. But I didn't even realize I had done that. Or maybe he did it. People are putting it on me. Maybe I am legendary for hating coaches. And so maybe he was like, I'm going to get this guy on my good side and I'm going to hold his hand. So, it could have been Blake. I'm not sure. But, he didn't let go either. He didn't pull away. So, it was 30 seconds. So at the time,
I have like a 3-second rule with a handshake. Like there's a hard 3 seconds. Like, it's great. Like you shake the hand. It's a firm grip. Hey, how's it going? Boom. Done. That's it. Done. That is it's just the way it has to be. But it was funny, man. It was definitely me. That's
here's Kyle as he was approaching Blake Harrell.
This guy got super bad.
What was that?
I don't know what happened.
I can't hear anything.
I don't think.
Okay. Well, it's a clip. A lot of folks are probably familiar with it. It's one that Pirate Radio several months ago, probably even a year plus now. They used it just constantly over a several month period. It was on their montage, and they're open to the show. But it's a gentleman that had some sort of conflict on an airplane and was approaching another person on the flight, saying I'm going to shake his hand. I want to shake his hand.
Oh, I've seen that. Okay, yeah, I've seen that. Hey, look, you know what? If they're talking about you, it's a good thing. There's no negative to that. The interview is what it was. It was not a serious, in-depth interview. If Blake wants to come on here after he's hired as head coach at East Carolina, or even if he's not hired as head coach at East Carolina, he should really come on here. And we'll have a nice in-depth interview. And anybody who wants to see my interview skills, more in depth, I keep getting comments on that. Hey, great interview. I can't tell if people are being sarcastic or not, but that was just, as I said at the beginning of it. Have you got 30 seconds? Because I didn't want to take his time. He was just getting off an airplane to have a message for Pirate Nation. And by the way, I timed the interview out at 31 seconds, so I nailed it. But it was, it was what it was, and I appreciate people for watching it. It cracks me up. Do what?
Nobody's promoted Blake Harrell as the next head coach more than you have, Kyle, to be fair. So
no, absolutely. Well,
mutual respect. Mutual respect is what I'm saying. Like you've been very gracious. And you've been very clear that that's your guy.
Well, to me, it's just about right is right. And when you're asked to do something and you overachieve at it, nobody expecting him to go 4-0. Nobody expecting him to blow out Temple, blow out Florida Atlantic, have a come from behind 21 point, overcome a 21 point deficit on the road at North Texas. So he's overachieved. And I really believe with John David Baker working for him and being allowed to coach and run the offense the way he wants to, that we can have a lot of success here. There's a lot of similarities personality-wise between Blake Harrell and Ruffin McNeil, and then you look at Lincoln Riley and JDB, and there's similarities there. And I see it right in front of me, plain as day. And I think a lot of other people do too. And I kind of had a feeling when the decision was made that it was going to work, and probably work better than what was anticipated by Jesus. What's wrong with me? My Gilbert. Forgot her AD's name. So anyway, the point of the matter is, I think Blake's doing a great job, and I have a lot of respect for him. I like him as a person. I think he's a good coach. I think the players like playing for him. I think we are headed in the right direction, particularly with this offense with JDB. And I've always, said if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why change now? You literally have half this league. You're going to have Temple. You're going to have Rice. You're going to have Florida Atlantic. You're going to have Charlotte. You're going to have Tulsa, all hiring new head coaches. If we can keep what we have, create continuity, we could be one of the favorites next year to win this league, while half the teams in this league are rebuilding. It'll be a fresh start, but we'll have a leg up on it and have a lot of continuity.
Yep.
Excellent comment here from Axel regarding the impact of Zakai Barker. Of course, he missed the first half yesterday because of the targeting penalty in the Tulsa game, and the impact he had in the third and fourth quarters there. And Will Landon also chimed in saying, Axel, you're right about Zakai, and we don't even look like the same team on defense when he's not on the field. Of course, he's Mike linebacker and has the mic in his helmet and handles a lot of the recognition and communication.
I did think towards the middle of the second quarter, maybe, who was the kid that was playing in place of him?
Was it Julian Davis, Mike Edwards? I don't know exactly.
I know it was Mike Edwards that had the mic in his helmet instead of Zakai.
Yeah, I believe it was Edwards. Whoever was playing in place of him, I noticed he really started wrapping up really well, making good tackles in the second quarter. And then, of course, he didn't play as much once Barker got back in the game. But, we are a much better defense with Zakai Barker on the field for sure. There ain't no doubt about it. He's the leader of the defense.
Yeah, and like that offense that North Texas has is tailor-made for Barker, because the way they run a lot of those inside screens, those wide receiver screens, his ability to run sideline to sideline and make plays is really, really impressive to see. And he definitely turned that game yesterday. I mean, as soon as he came in, he created a fumble where we got possession of the ball and were able to score. So totally different game. Really good points by Will and Axel and everybody talking about his impact, because we are a different team without him on the field.
He was fresh too. People always think not having him for a half is a negative. Maybe we'd have never got down by 21, but he was fresh as a daisy coming in the third quarter, while everybody else had played a half of football.
And with Zakai's body type, kind of piggybacking off of what Matt said there, definitely much different than a lot of your Mike backers down through the years, and it's almost his body type reminds me almost more of like Art Brown, former Pirate running back. And like you're saying, Zakai, really, really can run.
Oh yeah, sideline to sideline, he's fantastic, and he does finish his tackles. So another player we need to. If you're thinking about managing NIL and who to invest money in, he would be another guy that obviously goes without saying. You got to make sure that he's taken care of.
Yeah, he would be a top priority along with the receiver we were talking about earlier.
Yannick
Smith, thank you, Hauser, and a few others.
And Omar Rogers, we've discussed his name a lot in recent weeks. He's been all over the field making plays.
Yeah, he has. Does a great job. Defense, and we'll see against the Navy, but really, I think the defense has started to suck. And I really think, starting with that Florida Atlantic game, the defense started playing better. obviously, against Tulsa, we gave up some points, but they stepped up when they had to. The goal line stand, a few other spots in that game. And then yesterday in the second half, defense played fantastic. So I think the defense is starting to come back around. We played really well at the beginning of the season. Then we had to adjust to playing without Sean Ravel. Remind me not to drink a cup of coffee right before the podcast ever again. We had to adjust to playing without Sean Ravel or Revel, however you say his last name. And I think it's taken a while. But even in that Tulsa game, obviously we gave up some points. But I really think starting with the Florida Atlantic game, the defense isn't back to early season form, but they're not. That we went through that string of games with the exception of the UTSA game, where the defense played like utter crap.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Just very quickly, Matt. As far as yesterday, in the second half, and to be honest, guys, I had no doubt as far as our offense's ability to put up some points yesterday. Any reservations that or concerns that I had concerning a Pirate comeback was if we were going to be able to get enough stops. I thought we were going to. We had just the one turnover forced in the game, the one there on the first possession of the second half for North Texas. Where we forced a fumble on a screen pass, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
But outside of that, then that was the only turnover, and of course there were other stops we managed to get, where they went for it, but which
big time stops on fourth down, a couple of times.
Big time stops, and but to my point, in the second half, 3 plays 23 yards, we forced a fumble, 4 plays 8 yards, 3 plays 20 yards. 5 plays, 20 yards, missed field goal. Then they did have 4 plays, 75-yard touchdown. That was, I believe, the drive where we had 30 yards and face mask penalties.
Correct.
That significantly aided them. But then the next drive, 7 plays, 22 yards, 6 plays, 18 yards, and then their final drive of the game, where they threatened and ended up turning over on downs. When their running back ran out 2 yards shy of the first down, and Chandler Morris showed some frustration there with him not knowing the situation. That was a 9-play, 69-yard drive. But and by and large, that Pirate defense getting stops against one of the nation's better passing offenses.
Because had that running back not come up a yard short, they would have surely scored 14 points in the last 30 seconds of the game with no timeouts.
Our defense is really good in like 4th and 1 type situations. I don't know how they coach it, but we're really good at getting penetration, and that's been the case for a few years now. So, like a few good stops yesterday in 4th and short situations that definitely helped us get momentum. And just impressed like the way we played the second half. I thought if you take those penalties away, some of those ridiculous penalties, obviously you have a chance to shut them out, which is hard to do against North Texas. It really is. So, definitely happy with what I saw there. But, it's going to take more discipline to beat a Navy next week. We just can't make those mistakes.
And the face mask penalties, again, they don't bother me as much as they bother y'all. Because, again, I think they were effort penalties. I don't think anybody intentionally grabbed a face mask. I think they were just trying to make a play. The sack, that was an irritating time because it would have been about second in Fort Worth had we got that sack, if it would have stood without that penalty. But you make a good point, and Matt or Bubba, one of the two of you said about stopping them on 4th down, on 4th and shorts multiple time. That is something you can definitely carry over to the Navy game because Navy will go for it on 4th down repeatedly if they're anything like they normally are. So that is definitely something you can carry over. That hey, these 4th down stops. That is something I would harp on in the game film. All the 4th down stops we had this past week in short yardage situations, because that is something you're going to need to do against Navy.
Yeah, I remember one year against Navy, like you're saying, they were getting 3 or 4 yards a pop, and then consistently facing fourth and short, 1, 2, 3 yards, and went for it on fourth down 9 or 10 times.
I would tell my defense when playing Navy, be prepared for fourth down every down, every drive. Just be prepared for fourth down. It's going to be a 4-down drive. Every pretty much every damn time they touch the ball. If they have it in short yardage situation and they are anywhere close to midfield, they're going to go for it.
Oh yeah, everything's four down territory against the academies, and that's why first down defense is. We'll go back to North Texas here, but first down defense against Navy is so important because you need to. If you get them into like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, you get them out of their comfort zone. If they're consistently getting 5, 6 yards on first down, they're going to get 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. And that's where they're really dangerous because they're always going to go for it on fourth down. So first down defense is huge, but I got to believe that our defensive staff is watching the Navy Tulane game from a few weeks ago. I think they're going to be looking at that a lot because Tulane defensively really shut down Navy. It was pretty impressive what they did. I think the final score was 31-0.
Well, they didn't have their quarterback for most of that game.
Yeah, but to hold Navy scoreless. Bubba, do I have that score right? Was it 31-0? Bubba's
you say Tulane and Navy?
From 2 weeks ago. I think
yeah, it's 35-0.
Damn, that's impressive to do.
Yeah, Horvath, the Navy quarterback, got injured with back spasms early in that game. If you didn't reference that,
correct. And that's why I also love one of the things I really am a big advocate of is when you play an academy, you got to be as physical as possible with the quarterback. It's not good enough to just try to get them down. You got to put solid shots on the quarterback to really get him a little bit rattled. Sometimes that can lead to turnovers and just create plays for your defense. So you got to be really physical with the quarterback, and you got to make them pay for it. If a quarterback tries to run option down the line, you got to really tee off on him and make sure he doesn't want to do that again. So another thing to look at for.
Yeah, I think Navy's quarterback's been banged up for a few weeks prior to that Navy game, actually, or prior to the Tulane game. I don't think he's been healthy in a couple weeks. And then, of course, he gets an off week before we play him. But when he's healthy, they're good. They can score on anybody. They can play good defense. That's what, again, scares me about this game. They've had an off week to rest up and get healthy. And now old Horvath will probably be healthy. And but hey, look, I told Blake last night he was going to be the first coach to beat Navy in Greenville. So I'm still picking the Pirates to win. There's a lot of things about this game that I don't like.
Yeah, James Cutler saying different team with Blake Harrell leading the way, huge difference, no doubt.
Yeah.
As far as the aggressiveness and yes, on one hand, in this situation, I think it definitely is, in my opinion, probably a little bit easier to be aggressive, but at the same time, I think this really is, how Blake Harrell wants to play, and I think if that interim tag's removed, that we would see that aggressive approach continue, throughout this year's bowl game and then into the 2025 season.
I think it's going to change it at all. And you say it's easier. Hell, he was, he's coaching for his job every week. So I don't know if it's any easier or not. If what you did worked and it got you the job, no, you better not change it. So no, I think if he gets the job full time, and he better, I want it to happen tomorrow. I know he was meeting with John Gilbert today, so I hope we get news tomorrow. Probably not, because typically you're hearing things. If something's going to happen tomorrow, you're typically getting texts the night before. So probably not. It probably won't happen until after the Navy game. But I'm just saying it now, and I said it earlier in the show. I'm asking everybody, if we lose to Navy, please don't let that change your opinion on Blake. Because, again, this is a very good Navy football team whose quarterback's been banged up for several weeks and was out for the Tulane game for the majority of it. And they've had an off week to prepare for us, and we got a short week. They got an off week. We got a short week. And Navy is the last team you want to be playing when they have an off week, you have a short week. It's complete BS.
I'll tell you, if you guys would have told me 5 weeks ago that Blake Harrell was about to get this head coaching job, I would have told you were smoking crack. I would have told you were out of your mind, because I think everybody, Pirate Nation, was at the point where, like, we just thought that this thing was at the point where it was so off the rails that there was no chance to save it. There was no chance. I mean, it just looked so bad there for a while.
I didn't.
Coming off that Charlotte loss. And so what he's done to be able to turn this around, and and let me say, I say that with no disrespect to Blake Harrell. I've been a big supporter of his through the years, but it just looked so bleak 5 years ago. For him to get us back into this position, I think is really impressive. And, you know, I just think it's an incredible turn of events when you think about where we were 5 weeks ago and to where we are now on the eve of possibly hiring Blake Harrell as our next head coach. It's a crazy situation.
It's an incredible story, and you know, I'd seen some stuff from Blake. You know, I had the you know, the quote that, not to toot my own horn, but toot before the Temple game, during the Temple preview, I said hide and watch. I said I just got a feeling, hide and watch. There were some things that I heard from Blake that just made me just immediately think of Ruffin McNeil, and so far I've been right. Let's hope it continues.
Kind of expanding on Matt's comment, though, as far as, you know, going back to mid-October and
the Charlotte game,
really beginning, you know, October 5th, and when the Pirates were in that spot, you know, if you'd have told us that we were going to be 7-4 and a favorite over Navy.
I don't think we are favored now. I think we're a 1-point dog. I think.
Well, per FanDuel, ECU still -1.5. But yes, in spot, I'd seen, you know, after opening, you know, anywhere from a 1 to 2.5 point favorite, that it had moved to Navy -1. But yes, on FanDuel, I just checked. It's still East Carolina -1.5 with the over under at 56.5.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that spread, or with the not with. Well, I don't know what to do with that spread either, but I don't know what to do with that over or under.
We're going to score.
My gut says take the over.
Take the over, Kyle. You said 56.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to score points, and you know, and look, you know, Navy's going to get their points. They just are. I mean, there's going to be one play in this game, and I hope it doesn't happen, but there's going to be the typical play where they option you to death, and then the quarterback steps back and, you know, hits the deep shot down the field because your safety's bit against play action, and it's gonna, like, there's going to be points in this game, but I feel like when I really look at this, I feel like the difference in this game could be our defensive line, the physicality and quickness of our defensive line versus their O-line. And you have to win at the point of attack. And I think that when I've seen Navy play the last month, I haven't been overly impressed with their O-line. So I think that's a matchup right there to look out for. And I'm going to say it again, our kickoff unit has to be better. It has to be better, because if Navy gets the ball 3 or 4 times at the 40-yard line, we will lose the game. I'm telling you, we will lose the game. So whoever's coaching that kickoff unit, they have got to get right.
That's our special teams coordinator. Came here from Pitt. What is his name? I can't think of his name right now. Bubba, help me out.
I'm sorry. I had to step away for a moment.
Our special teams coordinator's name?
Yes. Dang.
Mr. Special Teams, man.
No, hold on.
You know what
I'm talking about, Kyle, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I don't think he's done a great job all year. Houston was huge on him.
He'd been at North Carolina, been at Pittsburgh. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Just one moment.
I know Houston's been huge on him. I don't think our special teams have been great all year.
Andre Powell.
Andre Powell. I think it's Andre Powell. The kickoffs are consistently short, though. The kickoffs are consistently short. Like, we got to do something.
Andre
Powell. Okay, thank you. But, like, we need to do something different, whether it's trying to kick the ball into the corner a little bit more, try and pin people deep, but like it's just out of control now. The constant returns and field position, and you just can't do it, man. Like we dodged a few bullets yesterday at North Texas by doing that, but you're just not going to beat a Navy, with those types of mistakes.
You just got to have better coverage. I mean, you can't fix your kicker in a week, but you got to make sure you guys get downfield and tackle.
Yeah,
that's really what we can do this week. Is you stress that in practice this week. Get your asses down the field and tackle. Get them on the ground, so they don't have short fields to start with. Also,
And one of those times that we had to kick off from the 20-yard line because of a penalty.
Yeah. Also, Matt.
Right.
First half of the season, we didn't get too much practice on kickoff coverage. We weren't scoring
after Norfolk. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Andrew Conrad. We split all 4 of our PATs, and then we're 2 for 2, and had that 38-yarder there that when we were chipping into the lead, they cut it to 21-17.
Yeah, big kick there. And he made all his PATs.
Got the momentum going, Kyle. Yeah.
Exactly. You big kick, and because the next score gave us the lead rather than tying it, also. So big time kick, and again made all his PATs, which is something I've wanted to see all year that we haven't seen too many times. And that was a game we didn't need to be missing PATs. That's for damn sure.
Oh, no doubt.
Several other comments I want to get to here as we start to wind things down on tonight's show. Craig Doucette saying he thinks Saturday's uniform with the modern throwback helmets with that white lid and then the white jerseys and the gold pants, his least favorite of the season. Yeah, Craig,
good.
Yeah, I like it. But, I agree compared to the other combinations, it probably would be my least favorite. But, yes, I definitely don't dislike it.
I thought it looked good. I didn't think it necessarily looked like us, and maybe that's what threw you and Craig off. But I thought it looked good. I thought the helmet and the gold pants went really well together. Go ahead.
I know that's a combination that, back in the Ed Emery and the Art Baker years that we wore, because I'd seen an old photo from a game at South Carolina back in the early to mid 80s where we had, the purple helmet with the script Pirates, white jerseys and gold pants with the stripe on the pants. And I thought that looked good. I'm just, as much as I love the script Pirates and the modern throwback uniform, I want to see us bring back the purple helmet with the script Pirates, and I think that would really make that uniform pop even more.
Yeah, I did. I like the helmets, and I didn't mind the uniforms yesterday. And again, we won on the road with white helmets, so now everybody can shut up about that for forever.
I agree with Axel here. He says, "Is Friday all black?" I hope so. I would love to see the All Blacks come back for Friday.
Whites will be allowed there too. Sorry, guys.
I'm staying away from that one.
Sorry.
No mas.
All right, I told you, don't let me have coffee before the show. They can wear whatever they want to. They can come out in pink as long as they win. I don't care. Whatever the players are comfortable in wearing, whatever they feel best playing in on senior day, whether it be all black, all purple, all white, black helmet, yellow pants, purple top. Do that. We haven't done that. Let's do that. Black helmet, purple jersey, yellow pants.
Richard Allsbrook saying, is there a D1 football school that has fired and hired a new coach during the same season? It definitely has happened, Richard, at some point. I went back and looked because with Dabo Sweeney, when he took over for Tommy Bowden at Clemson, he was not he did not have that interim tag removed until the conclusion of the regular season. I believe the same was the case for Brent Key at Georgia Tech. And but
even though
the examples are escaping me, I know it's happened.
Yeah, I'm the same way, Bubba. I remember it happening, but I cannot think of it either. But and you bring up Brent Key. That's a good topic, really fast about Coach Harrell. Just interim coaches that have gone on to be successful. Obviously, Dabo Swinney's the obvious one. Dabo was a wide receivers coach. He wasn't the OC at Clemson, for people that may not remember that. And he had gotten out of coaching at one point and was in sales. And when Tommy was fired, he suggested Dabo, of anybody on staff, to be interim coach, and they went with it, and it worked. And it's still working. Britt Key at Georgia Tech, who has been successful. He was interim head coach. The Navy midshipman, their current head coach. What is his name, Bubba?
Good Lord, I'm drawing a blank on it. He was
Brian Newberry.
Brian Newberry, Coach Newberry, was the defensive coordinator at Navy, and when they fired Kenny Amatololo, actually they fired him after the season and promoted Newberry from within, and that's worked. So this notion that you got to hire from outside, you don't, and I think a lot of people are getting off that now because they're buying into what Blake's selling. But there are still some people out there that are just convinced we got to go make a splash hire, or who the hell are we going to hire that's such a splash at this point? Tyson Helton's on a losing streak. He lost to La Tech, who's god awful. They lost to Liberty this week, and they'll probably lose to Jacksonville State this coming weekend. You got Garrett Riley. He's unproven. He's a great OC, but he's never been a head coach. So I don't know who the splash hire is we're supposed to make.
I got an interesting one for you, Kyle.
Is it Blake Harrell?
So this is just now. We're just kind of having I heard I don't know if this is true, but I heard a rumor that, and give this a chance for a minute before you shoot this one down, right? I heard a rumor that Ray Lewis's agent reached out to ECU. Now, as crazy as that might sound, right? As crazy as it might sound, and I would have told you 3 years ago, if you guys mentioned, I would have been like, you're freaking crazy. You're out of your mind.
Yeah, he should be in prison for murder. His buddies took the fall for him. Screw Ray Lewis.
Yeah, but, he wasn't convicted, right? I mean, I don't know.
Screw Ray Lewis.
I'm just saying this. In this crazy NIL world of
Ray Lewis
portal, and look, somebody's going to hire Ray Lewis, and he's going to be very successful. It won't happen here at East Carolina because
thank God
it wouldn't happen. But I'm just telling you, and remember I said this, somebody's going to hire Ray Lewis, and he's going to be very successful as a coach. And I could see FAU doing it. I could definitely see that situation unfolding, but I just thought that was an interesting one. He's the type of guy where somebody's going to hire him, and recruiting is immediately going to change, from day one. Almost like
your son go play for a murderer.
Almost like what happened with Dion at Colorado. But
no, thank you.
I don't know about the whole murder thing, but
another example of a coach who took over in an interim role and then had that interim tag removed. Spencer Danielson at Boise State. The Broncos surviving a scare in Laramie last night against Wyoming.
Yeah, and there's a guy who brought in, I believe he's a former Boise player, and I believe he played for Dirk Curter, who he brought back as his OC, who was his head coach. That is a good example. And he's done a great job at Boise. And, but the Ray Lewis thing, we completely disagree on that one, Matt. I'm not doubting that he may be successful as a head coach. I just don't want him representing East Carolina.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I don't think that would ever happen here, but somebody's going to hire him. Somebody's going to hire him, and it's going to be successful, as I'm just saying. Great stat there from Johnny. Bubba, can you pull that one up from Johnny Robinson about the touchbacks?
Yes, that was very, very interesting. But he said, in regards to kickoffs, the Pirates in 52 kickoffs have only had 19 touchbacks. In contrast, Memphis has 62 touchbacks in 65 kickoffs.
You would think with three kickers on this football team that we use, that one of them could get it in the end zone consistently.
Absolutely.
And then add the punter into it. So we got a couple punters. I mean, can nobody get into the end zone?
And again, another failure by when you look at the Mike Houston decisions that have been made. That's just another failure to not be able to have a kicker that can kick the ball into the end zone. So I hate to say it, but it's the truth.
How about the year late? I think it was you, Matt, actually, that had seen this before I did, or perhaps it was Johnny Gardner that had sent me this. But Lath Marjan, and down at South Alabama has had a heck of a year. 15 out of 16 on field goals.
Yep.
Is that the kid that was transferred here and then left?
He played here for what, a year?
He came to us from Raleigh Inlow directly out of high school, and then it said it says graduated from Cary, but it also says Inlow here, so I don't know, conflicting information on his ECU bio, but yes, he went to South Al, and
good job, Houston.
Obviously had a heck of a year.
Yeah, good job, Houston. No, but I did want to touch on a couple more things before we wrap this up about hopefully Blake getting this job. Big part of that's going to be keeping John David Baker, which Bubba reminded me of yesterday. John David actually has a 2-year contract, not a 1-year contract. So if he is not retained or doesn't leave on his own, we're going to have to buy him out. So we got that going for us. So I think extend him by 1 year, keep him on a 2-year contract if Harrell gets the job. And then who would Harrell bring in as defensive coordinator? Would he promote from within? I would like to see him bring in somebody from the outside, but on staff, the D-line coach, I'm assuming everybody's name is escaping me tonight.
Roy Tesh.
Roy Tesh would probably be, I'm assuming, the front runner if we were going to promote from within. But I'd have to look at his background, who Coach Harrell associates with. And I'm sure that's the conversation that Gilbert had today, or was part of that conversation, is what would your staff look like? Obviously, you're going to retain certain people, but you're no longer going to be the DC. You're going to bring in somebody from the outside. You're going to promote from within. Do you know yet? So it'd be interesting to see what staff changes will be made, because I'm sure there will be some if Blake gets the job.
And of note, concerning Roy Tesh, he had a long association with Mike Houston, as had Blake Harrell, at previous institutions. So that's worth keeping in mind when you consider that option. And also Roy Tesh, he had been a coordinator before, but a special teams coordinator. But
he did a really good job. He did an excellent job as a special teams coordinator.
Right.
I was actually disappointed when they took that away from him, because I thought he did such a good job there that year. But
I remember being a little surprised, like you say, Matt, when that shakeup happened.
Yeah, he did a great job there. So, we'll see, man. It's going to be interesting. Just I think we're going to have our answers here by the end of the week. So,
had a series of comments here from Irving Bennett. He said, huge decision to be made by John Gilbert. His 2 cents are to rehire Skip Holtz if we can. If not, hire Blake Harrell. Holtz would be a magnificent, roster manager in this new NIL era in transfer portal. And he says that Holtz is a proven success, or has had proven success here in the pros, and excellent fundraiser. And he says he presumes that Holtz has been reached out to.
Holtz has been reached out to, and Holtz is a great coach. I don't know how many other people. Maybe I'm the only one that looks at it like this. I can't be. But at some point, does loyalty, working hard, and being done what's asked of you and overachieving not mean anything? Even if I can handle it, if Blake Harrell's not successful, because he's earned it. He deserves the opportunity. I think Skip's great. But, Blake is out here every week after his friend, somebody he's coached with his whole career gets fired. He could have had a bad attitude. Instead, he said, "Hell, this is my opportunity." He's reached out to Ruffin McNeil. Coach Houston couldn't get along with Cliff Godwin. Cliff didn't have a relationship with Blake Harrell until Houston was gone. And now Cliff, Blake has reached out to Cliff about just general head coaching advice, managing a roster, etc. Blake is embracing Pirate Nation. He embraces our culture. He has students out at practice. He's humble. He's real. He wants to be here. He cares about us meaning Pirate Nation and his players. At some point, does that not matter? Is all that people care about is how successful we can be? And, obviously it's a win business, and I want us to be successful, and I think we can be successful under Blake Harrell, or I wouldn't be promoting him as the next head coach. But at some point, does what you do, it has to matter. If we're living in a world where college football has gotten to the point where proving it and doing what's asked of you doesn't matter to people anymore, then I don't know if I want to be a part of it anymore. That's the part that irritates me is more people aren't saying this man has earned the job. He's doing the right things.
Well, I think those are really good points, Kyle. I think those are really good points. The one thing we know for a fact about college football, is that it's not always logical. You know what I mean? Like the things that seem to make the most sense tend to not happen. So, but I think you make great points. And I really think that based on a lot of the people the vast majority of people that I've talked to really want Blake to be the next head coach. So I think most people, I think the vast majority of people agree with your point.
Yeah, man, it's just simplified. I don't know at what level you are in your company, but let's say your boss gets fired and they say, "Matt, we want you to step in and be interim manager until we find a replacement." And sales go up, everything goes up, everything is twice as successful as it was under your boss. And 6 weeks later, they go, "Matt, we found your replacement." Well, screw them. Semenza's sitting here running this thing, and he's only had 6 weeks at it. And he's been more successful in those 6 weeks than the previous guy was. And now you're not giving him the job permanently? It's BS.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it would be looked at in the business world. And there's an old saying, don't take the interim position if you want the permanent position. Well, in football, it really don't work that way because you can't say I'm not going to take the interim position. But in business, they say that. That's how I look at it. The man's earned the job, give it to him. And if it don't work, I can live with it. Don't give him a 5-year contract and pay him $3 million a year from the start, but, come up with a sensible contract where if it don't work, we can get out of it. But I'd be willing to bet you it's going to work out.
Our buddy James down in Mississippi chimes in saying, here's a fun fact for you guys. I'm sure you already know, but Blake Harrell, when he was defensive coordinator at Kennesaw State, replaced Navy head coach Brian Newberry.
Correct. He did. Yes, he did. And I got a feeling if we don't hire him, he'll be replacing the Kennesaw State head coach that was just fired in their first year of FBS. So I got a feeling Blake's going to be a head coach one way or another. But I hope it's here. And I know I'm beating that drum to death, and I know a lot of people agree with me. I think the majority of people agree with me. It just really surprises me that more people just, I don't know. Maybe people just aren't vocalizing it the same way I am about loyalty and feeling like the man's earned the job.
I think a big part of it, Kyle, is like you got to look at this thing too. If you're the athletic director from, you really like what John David Baker is doing right now. And again, I would not have said that 5 weeks ago. So this is like an incredible turnaround. But, one of the first questions I'd have for Blake, and one of you guys may have mentioned this earlier, but let's just say John David Baker, let's just hypothetical, you hire Blake Harrell as your head coach. you keep John David Baker for a year and then he leaves after next year and goes somewhere else. A lot of these questions I need to understand are, who are some of the contacts you have offensively? If you could start a program from scratch, what type of offensive system would you run? Like, these are really important questions to understand, because you can easily envision a situation where, JDB, gets another offer after next season, for example. And then it comes down to, all right, so what type of offense are we going to bring in here? And, for me, it has to be a high octane, fast tempo offensive system like we're running now and like we had under Lincoln. That is what works at East Carolina, in my opinion. So those are the important questions that we don't necessarily have insight, into those things. But I got to believe this big conversation that took place today between Gilbert and Blake Harrell, I'm assuming, I have to assume that they talked about a lot of those things.
Yeah, well, I think you could see just on the field the way we're playing offense what he wants to run, and the fact that he's been reaching out to people like Ruffin McNeil, who had the same philosophy, even though he was a defensive-minded coach, be wide open on offense. My guess is John David Baker would bring in, if we lost John David Baker, my guess is Blake Harrell would bring in somebody else who runs a wide open offense. And in terms of who his contacts would be, I think he'd reach out to people. He seems to be the type of person that does not mind asking for advice on what way, the way he should do things. And I think he's the type of guy who would make a lot of phone calls and call around. And I don't think he would hire a buddy. A lot of coaches are going to hire somebody they know. I just, from what I'm seeing out of Blake Harrell, I could be wrong. I don't know this for a fact, but he seems like the type of guy to me that's going to hire who he thinks is going to win here and be successful. I think Blake understands that there's a certain way to do things at East Carolina, and I think he gets it. I really do. And but yes, those conversations do need to be had between Gilbert and Blake, and I'm sure they are. And hopefully Blake gives Gilbert the answers he wants. And whatever big donors are out there that are having influence over this, hopefully he's also giving them the answers they want.
Yeah, give credit to Stephen Igo of hoistthecolors.net, reporting today about noon. Today, I guess it was right after I got out of church. I saw, and I know you guys had seen that post as well, where he was saying that Blake Harrell and John Gilbert were sitting down for that meeting this afternoon to discuss those elements of running a program and so forth, to make sure that Harrell was saying had plans for all those things that you would hope before the interim tag is removed.
Yeah, no, and those conversations need to be had. I'm not saying just hire the man blindly,
of course,
but I'm sure Blake. Blake's going to answer the questions honestly. That's one thing you're not going to get from him is a bunch of coach speak. So hopefully he gave Gilbert the answers he wanted to hear.
But some folks chiming in, and there's a little bit of confusion in the comment section as far as Blake Harrell's recruiting past, and obviously Blake Harrell has significant recruiting experience, and obviously it's a little bit different as a head coach, but Blake Harrell has been in the business for quite a while now, and with his personality and his understanding and love of East Carolina, I have no doubts in his ability as a recruiter, and specifically as it pertains to selling ECU.
And he's a North Carolina native. He knows the state. He's also spent time in Georgia and in South Carolina. These are all good areas for football talent, all areas we recruit. The head coach doesn't, in fact, the head coach doesn't do the majority of the recruiting. Your position coaches and your coordinators do. So anybody that thinks Blake can't recruit or hasn't been recruiting, no. And in terms of offensive talent, I don't think anybody could be a poor evaluator of quarterback talent than Mike Houston. So, my answer to that would be I'm going to let my offensive coaches recruit the offensive players, and I'm going to trust their decisions. That would be my answer because that's what you should do. If you're a defensive-minded coach, you need to let your offensive coordinator recruit and your position coaches on that side of the ball recruit who they want to bring in to run their offense and quit trying to dictate every damn thing.
Yeah, and another question I'd have for Blake is, how will you recruit offensive linemen? I've said this 100 times. I'll make it very quick. About ready to get out of here, but recruiting offensive linemen at East Carolina is literally the hardest thing you could do. It is very challenging. You look at the high school. If you were to go back 5 or 6 years, and I've done the math, I've actually done the study. I don't have it in front of me, but you would be absolutely astonished by the number of high school recruits we bring into this program on the O-line that never make it past their second year in the program. You have to be able to have a game plan to recruit O-linemen, whether it's just, hey, we're going to have you up on the portal. We're going to look at certain states. Maybe we start looking into MAC country in the Midwest. But I think that's an area where we've sort of underachieved, the last 6 or 7 years. And I'm putting that nicely. I feel really good about what this offensive line is doing right now. But there has to be a detailed strategy in place because I believe everything's built from the inside out. Solid O-line, solid D-line, you can win a lot of games.
Yeah, and I know our O-line coach, I think his reputation is a bit of he likes to coach and develop, not recruit so much, which could be an advantage here because we never get great O-line talent. So having a guy who likes to develop O-linemen could be a good thing.
Yeah, as we're wrapping this up, a couple other comments. Axel saying "Battle of the Bones" on Friday, referencing the new Navy helmets in our uniforms that have a skull and crossbones, much like Army's did. With that black helmet with the skull and bones, that being Army, and
I think they're debuting those against Army.
Right, and I believe that is the case. But they reveal those a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks in advance of that matchup. And Axel said ECU needs to insert hometown announcers into the broadcast crew. All these away games include biased alum of the home team. Get some ends on the mic on Friday in the booth. And in the past, Axel, and I'm sure you may very well know this. Yeah, Jay Sonhalter, former Pirate tight end from the John Thompson and Skip Holtz era, was or has been on the call for several of our games and has also done work in the spring, when we've had signing day parties and shows on ESPN Plus.
Was that a reference to the game yesterday? Did he think the announcers were unfair yesterday? I didn't think so at all. I don't know if he was referencing
just one Eastern Carolina reference that got under.
Yeah, but he corrected it. He corrected it on the air.
He corrected it, and he apologized, and you could tell that it certainly was not intentional, as I believe it is sometimes, because he immediately corrected it.
Hey, look, as long as Smacker's on the sidelines, I'm good. The best part of ESPN Plus broadcast. How has she not been called up to ESPN? How is she still on ESPN Plus? Are they out of their minds? Smacker does a great job. She's a very attractive girl. She's got a great personality. Me and Bubba's interviewed her. If you want to go check that out, Coach's Kid on YouTube. How in the world is she still on ESPN Plus?
Yeah, she does an excellent job as a sideline reporter,
and actually knows football, unlike most of those girls.
Yeah, hopefully she'll catch some breaks in the industry here in the next few years. And Robert Matthews said he actually was able to attend the Old Dominion Marshall game, and that they had a cannon as big as a bus.
I heard about that, Robert. I heard you went to that game with ODU and Marshall, and I heard you were concerned about your tickets and the barcode. But good thing they worked for you, and you got into the game. And I hope you and your son had fun at Marshall ODU. I'm perplexed at why you wanted to go to that game, but we all do weird things. Maybe you wanted to see what it was like in an MLS environment. Uh, but I always compare Old Dominion's crowd to an MLS crowd. But hope you enjoyed that.
Craig Doucette saying this team has done a complete 180 from the Houston era. Early in the season, there was no way we'd come back from being down 21. Weirdly, I found myself in despair before halftime because I was stuck with the early season mentality. But we're doing all the things that we wanted at the beginning of the year. We're making adjustments. We're able to score, like with the air raid. And even though yesterday is really the dirt raid or ground raid, whatever you want to say, but with the Pirates running the ball 70% of the time, but we still in that 30% that we threw the ball on 23 or 24 passing attempts. Caton Hauser threw for 298 yards. And just this team's resiliency, he says they've been a lot of fun and very exciting to watch down the stretch here in the second half of the season. No doubt, Craig. And that's something, that statement, we are doing all the things that we wanted at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
We're averaging right at 46 points a game. Has the competition been great? No, absolutely not. But the competition at the beginning of the year, while slightly better, it was not, leaps and bounds better than what we're facing now.
And we're not joining the Big Ten next year.
And people complaining are just saying a lot of different things that we're not going to get into about that. There's no doubt that we've played. We've played some teams that have struggled, but we've dominated. With the exception of the last two games we have not, but we still overcame a tremendous amount of adversity on the road. And
we dominated North Texas in that second half.
And yes, at the last 2+ quarters yesterday, we dominated. Obviously, after the 21-0 hole,
and that is not a bad football
40
team.
to their 7.
And that's not a bad football team. Yeah,
No.
they've been on a losing streak, but go check who they lost to. They'll get bowl eligible this coming week. They'll beat the crap out of Temple and get bowl eligible. This whole narrative that we haven't played anybody. No, we've played 4 FBS opponents, all with scholarship players, and we've beaten all 4 of them. Well, 3 out of the 4. I'll call yesterday convincing. We won by 12 after being down by 21. That's pretty convincing. So we've won 3 out of the 4 convincingly. I don't know what people want. You play your schedule. Charlotte is horrible. It's horrible, and they blew us out under Mike Houston. Liberty is mediocre despite the record. They played probably the weakest schedule in college football. Appalachian State's very mediocre. So it's not like the teams we were losing to are, and we're repeating ourselves, but I just don't know what people want. You can't do anything about the schedule. I think so many people just have their mind made up, or the ones that don't want Blake. They have their minds made up on Skip Holtz or on Garrett Riley or on Tyson Helton. And their minds are made up and you can't change it. They want their guy. They want somebody from the outside. And Blake Harrell can go beat Navy this week and they still won't change their mind. You're not going to change those people's mind, and that's fine. I just hope that the people in charge don't think that way.
Yeah, and look, this is where we are in college football now. Like, this is the conference we're in. This is not 20 years ago. This is not the mid '90s where we're lining up every week and playing Virginia Tech and Syracuse and Tennessee and Auburn and Miami. This is not that. This is the conference we're in now. All you can do is play the teams that are on your schedule. So, and you can't really punish your coach for beating the teams on your schedule. So,
exactly.
I'll just say I would have loved to have this schedule as a player. I would have loved to have this schedule for at least a year because look, we're not playing great teams, but again, you can only play the teams on your schedule. And look, we're playing good football. We're playing really good football. We're not winning these games by 1 point. We're putting a hammer down on people. So that's all you can do.
I would gladly, and yes, obviously I want to play very appealing schedules, and that goes without saying. But you're telling me that our fans wouldn't have traded the opportunity to be in the Fiesta Bowl last year? Like, yeah, Liberty didn't play,
Exactly.
very challenging schedule at all, but I sure would have loved to have been undefeated and playing in the Fiesta Bowl against Oregon.
Well, to me, it's relative to what you're comparing it to. Um, so I compared it again to Mike Houston. Well, Mike Houston was losing to Charlotte bad. Look at last year; we went 2-10, and the schedule last year wasn't much tougher than this year. And we went, yeah. Why is nobody talking about that? Who in the hell did we play last year, with the exception of non-conference games? But in conference, it was the same damn schedule. Last year we went 2-10. We didn't change conferences since last year.
Obviously SMU, but other than that,
Well, you
yes,
replace them with Army.
right.
So I mean, I don't get it. I don't get people's argument there. And again, a comparison. What are we going to be playing next year? Yeah, the non-conference schedule is going to step up with NC State and BYU coming on the schedule, but it's the same conference schedule.
And
So
as a lifelong Pirate fan, and Kyle, obviously you and Matt, have been following this program very closely for 30 plus years, and as a result, just yes, I get the desire to play those marquee names and have the chance to to earn the recognition and everything that comes along with that.
and we have that opportunity next year.
But exactly, and the best way to get back to prominence is obviously dominating where you are, and we're off to a good start.
Yeah, and you know what? We may get that opportunity in a bowl game. There,
Yeah.
there is multiple bowl games in this conference, from the Fenway Bowl to the Military Bowl to the Birmingham Bowl, where the opponent is from a Power Five league. I think they may all be from the ACC. Actually, all three of those bowls now. And then down in the Independence Bowl, Bubba, you're going to get a Pac-12 school, Washington State, Oregon State, or a former Pac-12 school, which would come from the Big Ten or Big 12. So there's multiple opportunities in the postseason, particularly if we beat Navy and go 8-4, to get your shot against a Power Five opponent. And one has nothing to do with the other. Just because Blake Harrell has not played a Power Five opponent, don't mean he can't beat a Power Five opponent. He hasn't had the opportunity.
Right. And Axel said, "I'd like to hear your way too early bowl predictions." I'm not going to get into any predictions for myself, Axel, because that can be a big rabbit hole. But I will say, the ones that you've been seeing, from your various publications, be it.
I don't think we're going to Montgomery. I saw that crap today. I don't know where the hell
you had
that
the
came from.
Camellia Bowl against James Madison in Montgomery, and you had the Cure Bowl down in Orlando against Marshall.
Fenway Park Bowl against Virginia Tech was projected.
Military against North Carolina, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I saw the Fenway against Virginia Tech was projected. I don't even know where that Camellia Bowl is coming from. We don't have that tie. That is Sunbelt versus the MAC. And I don't know why anybody thinks unless the MAC's not going to fill it, but we got enough bowl spots we're going to have trouble filling ourselves. So I don't know where that came from. It's almost it's either so bad that it's clearly wrong, or it bothers me a little bit because I wonder if there's something going on. And I just don't. Why the hell would you send us to that bowl? I don't get that at all. Unless it's, I don't know. I don't even want to get into speculation there, because they're just projections at this point that don't really mean a damn thing. I want the Military Bowl personally, because I think now that we've gotten 7, I don't think Myrtle Beach is going to happen. I think that was a 6-6 bowl. So at this point, I want the Military Bowl, but I don't think they would take Navy and keep them at home. But if they have an opportunity to take Army and have Army playing as the pseudo home team in Navy Marine Corps Stadium, would be a very unique situation. So I got a feeling if they have the opportunity, they're probably going to take the Black Knights.
Kenny Curlings, he posted this comment probably about a little over an hour ago, but he said John Gilbert should have a contract in hand, and after the Pirates beat Navy, he should have Blake Harrell sign it at midfield on the Pirate State of Mind logo in front of Pirate Nation. And that would certainly be a first.
Yeah, again, I'm not making my decision. I've already made my decision. I don't care what happens this Saturday. Nothing's going to change my mind. Short of Blake Harrell taking a dump on the field, nothing's going to change my mind. I think he's earned the job. I've seen too many good coaches lose to Navy, from Ruffin McNeil to Mike Houston's not a terrible coach. Scotty Montgomery was terrible, and he lost to Navy. Everybody's lost to Navy. We've beat them twice ever. Once under Ruffin up in Annapolis, once under Houston in Annapolis, and one was on a last-second field goal, and the other one was on a missed last-second field goal from Navy back in 2015. We've never beaten them in Greenville. So I'm not making my decision based on this game. I don't think that's fair. When you've had, Skip Holtz, the one time he played Navy, got his tail kicked. So I don't think it's fair to make your decision based on this game. But it sure would be nice to win it.
And as we wrap up the show, shifting gears, with our final comment of the night, Christian Bateman saying, a solid 2-1 weekend, for ECU basketball. Lost the opener to Jacksonville State, 86-78, a game in which we had I think about a 5 or 6 point lead there in the final 10 minutes. Unfortunately, unable to hold on against the Gamecocks, but then we bounced back with a 71-64 victory over Stetson, and then a 72-55 win over Illinois Chicago. And Illinois Chicago is a team that had been averaging, I think, right around 90 points a game and had scored at least 74 in all 6 games. And those 74 were in a 9-point loss to a very good Northwestern team, a program that was in the NCAA and made a little noise. I think won a game or two last year and has been very good under Chris Collins. But a little on the production for the Pirates, R.J. Felton has been exactly what you would hope for him to be and more. R.J. averaging 22.1 a game, right at 8 rebounds. Shooting 37% from 3-point range and 91% from the charity stripe. CJ Walker, the UCF transfer, averaging 17 points, or just shy of 17 points and a little over 8 rebounds per game. And Jordan Riley, the Temple transfer, 13.5 and 6.5 rebounds per contest in just over 32 minutes per game. And the Pirates will return to action on Friday afternoon. Remember, you can take your football ticket, take it at the ticket office, and get a $5 basketball ticket, as the Pirates will be taking on the North Carolina A&T Aggies following the Navy football game.
Yeah, and I think I was watching that or listening to the Jacksonville State game, actually, and we just went ice cold the last 5 minutes of that game. Couldn't hit a basket save our lives.
Yep. And so now the Pirates 6-1 following that 2-1 showing down in the Boardwalk Battle in Daytona Beach. And like I mentioned, you have North Carolina A&T on Friday at 5:30, and then you'll start off December with a real step up. I say a real step up, but 2 very challenging games, and somewhat of a step up in competition for sure, with UNC Wilmington in Minges. The Seahawks played Kansas very competitively. And then you also have that trip down to Columbia to take on the Gamecocks. Pirates lost a heartbreaker last year in Minges after having won a game in Greenville, South Carolina a couple years ago. That team that the Pirates faced last year was much better, and obviously was in the big dance, as a fairly high seed, and won 25 plus games a year ago under Lamont Paris, and are off to a 3-2 start this year. I had planned on going to that game. Unfortunately, a conflict with Reese's basketball, but look forward to that matchup between the Pirates and the South Carolina Gamecocks down at the Colonial Life Center in Columbia. But, that will do it for this edition of the Pirate Football Playback. Again, East Carolina victorious 40-28 over the North Texas Mean Green out in Denton, Texas. East Carolina now 7-4, 5-3.
7-3.
No,
7-4.
7-4, but 5-2 in league play. Started to say 5-3, but have a chance to get to 6-2 on Friday afternoon. But that will do it. For Kyle Barber, Matt Semenza, the absent Dave Richmond, I'm Bubba Rosenbaum. You've been watching and listening to the Pirate Football Playback on the Sports Objective. We'll talk to you soon. And as always, go Pirates.
You're watching the Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.